The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
It's the week of November 13th, 2023 along the Jersey Shore beaches again this week, hoping to find the bite and document the madness firsthand. Can you see it? Peanut bunker all over the place, getting hit by stripers this week. And they are up, they're down, they're in, they're out, all along the beach. Ocean, Monmouth County. It all materializes at some point, someplace. Where? Well, that's going to be up to you to find out. I'm Jim Hutchinson with a New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine, but from the Raritan Bay, down Monmouth, Ocean County, Long Beach Island, heck, even in Brigantine, down into Atlantic County. We heard from Andy at Riptide Bait and Tackle this week. He said KC caught and released a 43-incher near the jetty on a Riptide rodder, so that's fresh clam, but inside that striper before he released it, it was choking up some bunker as well. So bait is the name of the game, and there is a variety of it to talk about this week. I got into a couple of fish on Monday night, south wind, throw my favorite little neck popper when those south winds are blowing, had a couple then. Tuesday morning at sunrise, I was out at one of my places in Bayhead, beautiful morning. Fish were caught all along Ocean and Monmouth County, depends on where you were. But it was really a great time for the fly rodders too, because those fish chasing the baits are up in close, and it's terrific if you can get those bunker flies out there as well. But ballistic fishing, blitz conditions up and down the Jersey coast, what you expect this time of year. When I say up and down the Jersey Shore, yes, there's some fish into Atlantic and Cape May County, but what you see in the northern half of the state is just bonkers. Tuesday, I guess you can call it, if you got in on the right bite, it was the National Seatbelt Day, right? National holiday. You've celebrated, of course. So we'll call that the National Seatbelt Day Blitz of 2023. That's for you, Dr. Adam. And then Wednesday, lo and behold, it's the Raisin Bran Cereal Day. So we'll call this the National Raisin Bran Cereal Day Blitz of 2023. Earlier this week, Tuesday, when folks were getting on some fish throughout the Garden State, I saw where Dean Ween, Mickey Melchiondo, he got into the bite Tuesday, top waters. So yeah, top waters will work. And I'll tell you this, doing the reports this week for thefisherman.com, JB Casper's North Jersey report, Akira from True World Tackle up in Bayonne, he says the East River is loaded with bait and striper, so at some point you expect those fish to drop down, right? They'll drop down and along the coast. I'm hearing reports out in Long Island, there are still fish moving in from our east as well. I talked to Tim Smith sometime on Wednesday. He said there were blitz conditions, I think he said around Long Beach out in New York, so that's a good sign as well. Now, this is this movable feast. It's moving a little to the south. Picket fence conditions here, right? Last week's video, and you know how difficult it is. I was really glad to set up. Last week in the video fishing forecast, you saw the guy behind me, John. He was throwing top waters, or spooks, or stick baits, getting into some fish. Well, after doing about half the video, I took a break and I looked behind me a couple of 100 yards and there were bass blowing up on bunker. So I grabbed my camera gear and I ran down the beach, ran up the beach actually, and set up really quickly in front of breaking fish. By the time I was recording, the fish weren't there. And of course I had that horrible shadow, that ungodly shadow across my face. Well, I guess suffice to say you lose your marbles a little bit when you're doing this running and gunning along the beach. So I did try to set it up where I could. But the other thing in last week's video too, I predicted lights out fishing conditions on Friday. I was looking ahead at the weather forecast. I saw we had the incoming tide in the afternoon, west winds, rainy and overcast, plus we had a cold front coming through. I went from Bayhead to Sandy Hook, stopped about 30 times in between, then came back another dozen times in between. I ended up on my favorite stretch of beach in Bayhead, and it just didn't materialize. Now, fish were caught Friday and Saturday. It just wasn't epic as I thought. But when I got back to Bayhead sometime on Friday, one thing I noticed in the water, a couple of loons. I had come up, there was a little blow up at some point on Friday. There were a couple of loons in the water, and I was like, loons, huh? And then over the weekend, young Pedro El Defonso, he texted me an image of a sand eel that he had found washed up along the shore. I was like, wow, it's time to put the tsunami sand eels in the bag, the Avas, the tins, and of course, the teasers. That's what worked for me Tuesday morning at dawn. It wasn't exactly blitz conditions, but blind casting. You could see the bait in the water. It was sand eels. That's why the fly guys were out there as well. So it was the tsunami sand eel that got me on the Fish Plus with a teaser. You want to tie a dropper loops in your leader, or better yet, pre-tie a few, right? You don't be walking around with 6 spools of leader around your belt. What, are you going to tie them on the fly? No. Tie some leaders with the droppers, right, for your teasers. Put them in a cellophane bag, a sandwich bag. Put them in your pocket, and also some of the heavier leaders. Have them all pre-tied in case you have to switch on the fly. But any number of sand eel imitations will work when those sand eels are in. I mentioned the Avas. I mentioned the Ava jigs. You want the various color tails, the yellows, the greens, the blacks, maybe the reds. Deadly dicks and those narrow slim wave metals, also highly effective in terms of metals that you want to put behind the teaser ahead of that metal. The one thing, however, you want to swap out the hooks that come pre-packaged with any of those deadly dick style. They're great for false albacore, but if you want to get in some of these stripers when they're on sand eels, swap out those weak split rings, get rid of those trebles, and put the singles, the Siwash. You'll want to do that if you're packing in particular for the sand eel bite. That's another thing I spoke about in last week's video. I said I tamp down all my trebles and I try to go in lines as much as possible. Well, Saturday night by myself out on the sod banks in the upper Barnegat Bay, I realized I must have missed one of those trebles. Yep, got the hook right through my finger. First shake, it was in my finger. As I go, great, I got to deal with this. Shake number 2, it popped right on out. So I got to thank my neighborhood physician. You know my doctor, great guy, super guy, terrific guy, Dr. Brian Gumbatz. Docked side operation, a little bit of courage in there, and then he clipped them off. What Brian did is he took the crimpers, the clippers, you know, the hard pliers, the cutters, and he cut at the base of the treble, and we slid it out outside the exit wound. Karma, man, karma. It was on my middle finger too. Somebody's getting me back for something. I have talked about it, and I talked about it with my friend Chris Gatley from Mustad recently, replacing the trebles on some of those big cedars and also the smaller finish style plastics like the Bombers and the SP Minnows. For more on that, here's my friend Chris Gatley from Mustad.
We're here to talk today about hooks and replacing hooks on lures and things of that nature. I have actually been traveling up and down the coast from North Carolina and Maine since the holiday here back in September. And a couple of things I keep finding, especially in Jersey, Long Island, a little bit up in New York, is I want to replace the treble hooks with my cedar plugs for stripers. It sounds like a bunch of different hook companies through the past couple of years, especially with COVID, have been experiencing some issues, especially when it comes to cutting the eyelet of the hook, manipulating it to fit into an actual swivel of the custom plug. So this particular jaw lock treble here comes in packages like this. I forget exactly which hook this was, but this was taken from one of my North Jersey shops. He cut it, started bending it back and forth just to see how pliable it was, and more importantly, would it snap off like some of the others. I took it to a shop a little bit further south, kind of in the north where the bite's still going on, and he tweaked it back and forth. Right prior to this video, you and I were tweaking it right back and forth. So I feel pretty confident that you can twist this thing 4, 5, 6, 7 times, depending upon your force. You got to be nimble to allow it to get onto your custom plug. Now, some of you folks that don't want trebles, you want to get into the conservation mind of things, you want to go to a single hook, we have that option in the Ruthless Inline. This is the new hook by Alpha Point. It probably started hitting stores, I'd say, within the past 2 weeks. You're going to start seeing it at tackle shops, especially TackleDirect.com will have this. But what this does is it gives you the option. Do you want to run your trebles? If so, you can cut it and manipulate it to your need, or you can jump to a single hook inline if you prefer. Much like we discussed with other lures, if you do go to a single inline, just make sure that your hook point comes up on the rear hook and down on the belly. You might mess up a couple times. I'm an expert, a fishing guide, whatever you want to call it from the past. I mess it up still, so don't be ashamed if you go to rig it and it's pointing down when it should be pointing up, because I do it too. So in this particular lure here, this is a Salt Pro Minnow 15F. That's the 15F. We took the treble hooks off, mostly because Jim wants to go more conservation minded and go to a single hook from a treble, but some of you might have rusted trebles that you want to swap out. So what we did with the Mustad Alpha points in this particular case, we came in with a Ruthless inline, size 1 for the rear hook, and we rigged it so that when you're reeling it through the water, the actual hook will ride up and be facing the sky essentially, so that any fish that comes up and hits it, you have him full right here. On the belly hook, we actually went to the Ruthless inline 2/0. And the reason being is because we have a wider body and we needed to just have a little bit more clearance so that lures don't, hooks don't get snagged in on the lures, and it gives you ample clearance from the tail hook not to catch each other. So it's a 2/0 Ruthless inline on the belly hook, and it's a 1/0 on the tail. Now if you go to a different hook or a different lure company, like let's just say a Bomber, you might have to manipulate this a little bit. You might need a 3/0 and a 2/0, a 2/0 in the rear, a 3/0 up front. I say that you guys have to figure out for yourself. What a catch.
So if you're fishing one of these movable feasts, and it is movable because now I see it to my south, I don't know, a couple of 100 yards, but there's still a scattering of fish here. And you got to think about it. These stripers come in and they crash on the bunker. They're going to knock a couple of them down. You're going to have some cripples. But if you're going to be fishing those blitzes and chasing them, and they're on bunker, obviously you want the swim shads, right? We've always talked about storm, tsunami, white swim shads of various sizes, terrific. The poppers, the Polaris style, and the pencils. This morning just outside after the conditions were like this. This is a perfect time once that blitz has moved through to get on the outside with one of those pencil poppers. Sometimes you want the metal lip, especially when those fish are up in close. Also a good one. And we've talked a lot about it, the walk the dog style top water, the spooks. The dock spooks, or the game on is what I've been throwing as well. Then of course you want to pack along the sand eel imitations too, because we do have this mixing of bait at this point, which is terrific. Because if you think about it, hopefully these sand eels will stay around too, all the way through December for some outstanding action. The thin metals, tsunami sand eels, the tins, and especially those teasers. A lot of folks love the dead stick. Come up, just have a relaxing day. They find those holes that they love to fish, and they'll dead stick with clam or bunker. That's obviously going to work. Just make sure that you have a separate outfit, rigged and ready to go with some lures, because if that blitz materializes, then the other thing is you're going to have a bunch of people throwing around you. But it's much more effective blitzing fish to be throwing the lures as opposed to just sticking your baits in those holes. But again, that's an important thing too. You're chasing all these bunker schools, you're chasing the sand eels, the birds wheeling and diving, but sometimes you just want to scout out your own honey hole and sit and enjoy the morning, maybe with your son or your daughter fishing. For more on that, identifying the right structure to set up, let's check in with Jenny Ackerman, Open Boat.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. Today we're going to be talking about some very important things when you're fishing off the surf. It's about identifying structure. So it's important to know what you're looking for when you're fishing off the surf, because you just don't want to be blind casting. You've got to know how to identify sandy bottom structure. So I'm going to talk about 3 things today: sandbars, troughs, and cuts. So to start, a sandbar is a little lump in the sand. It's a sandbar, self-explanatory. And you can identify these by seeing when a wave forms and it starts to crest as it's coming in and crashes down. That's when it meets the sandbar. That's when it starts to crest and cut. And Coming in, you have smaller waves that don't crest, like little tiny little baby waves coming into the wash. So that's your sandbar. Following your sandbar, you have the sandbar, and then in between that and the beach, you have your trough. A trough is a little deeper bit of water, and what's awesome about a trough is it can hold bait fish and predator fish. It can hold peanut bunker, little rainfish, sand eels, and those predator fish like stripers, bluefish, fluke in the summertime, they hang out in that trough because that's their meal source. The trough is like a buffet for these predator fish here. So the trough is easy to identify. Like I said, you see those little cresting waves, but usually if you have a sunny day, you could see the darker water color for said trough. So how do these bait fish and predator fish get into the troughs past the sandbar? They use cuts. Cuts in the sandbar. The best way to visually describe them is a rip current that you see in the summertime. You have that rough white water pushing water out, and that's your cut in the sandbar. That's like the Garden State Parkway from, you're in New York, you're trying to take the Garden State Parkway down to get to like Belmar. That's your cut. That's the parkway into the trough. So they use that cut to get into the trough and feed, and that's a good spot for you to fish. So I had great success fishing a trough last month. I was fishing a bucktail in a trough, and I had my 49-inch bass that I caught in that trough, and that was amazing and very rewarding. And after you guys watch this video and familiarize yourself with sandy bottom structure, you can now see, oh, that's a trough. I know that I can find a good cut and fish that cut going into the trough. There's a sandbar. I'm gonna look for that now. I recommend going to like your favorite fishing beaches at like low tide and look for those sandbars. Try to find those at low tide. Just know what you're looking for. And I wish you guys luck on your next surf adventure.
Hey, congratulations to the big winners this past weekend in Captain Dave Scholl's Battle of the Back Bay tournament out of Absecon Bay Sportsman. Team Advantage, check this out. Team Advantage took $10,000 in that one-day tournament over the weekend. Second prize, Team Liquor Box, $2,000. Third place finishers, Team Pathfinder. They also walked away with a cool grand in the Back Bay Battle. Don't forget too, not far from where I'm standing, Charlie's Bait and Tackle in Normandy next week, Thanksgiving week. He's got his special Surf Turkey Surf Tournament. You got to register before next Wednesday. So if you have friends and family coming in for the holiday weekend, these beaches are going to be packed for the Thanksgiving holiday. All the way down Long Beach Island, I would imagine down at Corson's and into Cape May too. Terrific time of year to go fishing, but if you're up here in northern Ocean County and you plan to fish between Point and Island Beach State Park, stop into Charlie's, register for that Surf Turkey next week. Also, this weekend, you have got the TOG tournament down out of Lewis, Delaware. That's kicking off this week. A lot of interest in this one out of Lewis Harbor Marina. Just recently, Crack of Dawn's Tom Head. He got the ladies out on the TOG grounds. Dawn and Lauren both scoring a couple of keeper blackfish on some of those wrecks, probably some of the artificial reef sites off the Delaware coast. Here in New Jersey, Thursday, by the time you're watching this tonight, right? Thursday, November 16th, we go to a 5-fish bag limit on blackfish. Probably the only thing that'll drag some of these salty dogs away from the striped bass is to get out on the wrecks, the reefs, the snags, start looking for tog. Of course, you've got that 15-fish bag limit on black sea bass as well. So the head boats are busy. If they're not chasing stripers along the coast, the for-hire boats, the charter boats as well, they're going to be out there on the TOG grounds this weekend, maybe even going after some black sea bass and porgies, the more north you go especially. Now this Saturday, November 18th, Community Fire Company's having their annual TOG Masters tournament. That's this Saturday. Captain's meeting is Friday at 7 p.m. in Leonardo. Weigh-ins are Saturday at 2 different locations. First of all, weigh-in at Leonardo State Marina, but also Total Marine in Shark River. If you want details on that Tog Masters tournament this weekend, call Mark 732-546-7114. You could find all this information, of course, in that November edition of the Fisherman magazine, right? We've got the full calendar of events. Make sure you pick that up. There is still some solid tog action in the back as well, thinking along the jetties. Hearing some good things at Atlantic City. I know the Barnegat Inlet, the jetty rocks, the South Jetty rocks especially, giving up some tog. And one particular stretch of intercoastal waterway with a chain link fence up there, that's also producing tog. So if you're fishing from shore, you also get that bag limit too. My buddy John DeBona catching from shore this week using a tog jig, and believe it or not, crab flavored fish bites. How about that?
It's 3 for 3 on the same piece of fish bites. Crab flavored, and they're getting bigger.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Another event this weekend, if you're looking for tog jigs or bottom fishing rigs or maybe some of those old plugs, they're a little sprucing up, swap out the hooks, they're just as good as they ever were. Well, you've got the 28th annual Rahway Fall Fishing Flea Market. That's this Saturday, November 18th. That's from 9 to 2 at the St. Thomas Church Hall. That's at 1400 St. George's Avenue in Rahway. Admission price is $5 for adults. Children 12 and under are free. If you want more information on that, you can go to fishingfleamarkets.com or call 732-381-2165. I got to tell you, time is running out on the Fisherman Magazine's Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. We've only got through the month of November to get in on that event. Tell you what, last week, one subscriber from the Poconos, Thomas Lawrence, he had his boy Ryan out on Raritan Bay. They were fishing aboard the KB3 with Captain Joe Bartnicki. Young Ryan brought this 17-pound bluefish back to the tackle box in Hazlitt. Is that a bruiser or what? Thomas called and said, hey, does my son qualify? I was like, no, actually, it's up to subscribers, so you got to subscribe. Also, Ryan's only 11 years old. But if you're not subscribed, you get that 17-pound bluefish, which could win a prize. You're not going to be able to get into it. Let's find out how people are doing as far as our subscribers and competing for the Dreamboat. Tim, what's going on?
Major changes here. The competition is heating up as the Dreamboat Challenge nears its conclusion. 4 entries hit the board this week, and they all made waves. Mark Touchette started the bidding with his 4.4-pound sea bass, taking 2nd place in the category. Then Garrett Krause joined the game with this 8.2-pound tog that took 7th place in the category. Things got interesting when Norman Bouchard came out of nowhere with this 16.2-pound category-leading bluefish that vaulted him onto the scoreboard. And Bobby Cifarelli pulled a Babe Ruthian feat with his mind-blowing 16.26-pound tog, taking 1st place in the category and perhaps cementing a Dreamboat win. The top 3 looks like this. Norman Bouchard now holds 3rd place with 17 points. Kyle Krause was knocked out of the 1st place and now stands in 2nd place with 30 points. And Bobby Cifarelli, with this Titanic tog, now stands alone in 1st place with 33 points. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is a Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a 21-foot Cyclocraft center console powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Visit thefisherman.com to subscribe and get all the details so you can be part of the action.
One. Sad news to report this week, especially to the surf community up and down the Jersey coast. A good friend to everyone in the recreational fishing community, Bobby Matthews from Belmar. You might know him from Fisherman's Den. He passed away after a long fight with cancer just this past weekend. Absolute surf legend, one of the nicest people I've ever met in this fishing community at the Jersey Shore. I, for one, will miss seeing him and bending his ear from time to time. My prayers go out to his family and friends and the entire Fisherman's Den and Belmar fishing community. Bobby was a great, great guy. I still have not heard from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection about the ongoing work at Island Beach State Park. But I have heard from my own district legislators here at the Garden State, we'll break wind down in a few minutes. Break wind? Yeah, that sounds about appropriate. We'll do that in just a couple minutes. First, let's get an update with my friend George Schauer, the Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, things are starting to get a little bit frosty around here. Matter of fact, it was 18 degrees in my house here in Lake Harmony just a couple days ago. So the winter chill is certainly setting in, getting those water temperatures down. As a matter of fact, the Delaware River was down to 45 degrees today. So it's certainly making a turn down to the chilly weather. I'll tell you what, the lakes are a little bit behind, but it won't be too much longer. Probably right after the holidays, we start talking about some of that ice fishing, but let's let that go for a little while. We'll pick that up in another month or so. Right now, things are starting to boom. You know, we're getting some great fishing. Something I don't normally talk a lot about is the white perch. And we had Gary Deal check in from Beltsville Lake. Yes, there's white perch in Beltsville. I had seen a lot of people were surprised at that, but some great white perch fishing there in Beltsville. You know, we normally get them when we're out catfishing at night in the middle of the summer. They just attack and steal your baits, but if you go out there with some smaller hooks and some live bait, you sure load up on a bunch of those white perch. Great work there, Gary. Also, we had Eric Goodstall. He's still out on the hunt for these late season trout. Rainbows, browns, all over these lake streams and here in eastern Pennsylvania. And here's a beautiful rainbow Eric just recently caught out in this last week. And cold weather certainly helping that as well. Northern pike, here we go with this cold water fish again, guys. We had Tom Gilmore out here in eastern Pennsylvania, up north, getting into some of these pike. Wallen Pompack has them. You're going to find them in several different locations, but again on those jerk baits being really strong this year with that presentation. Of course, we can't forget from New Jersey, our Jersey juggernaut, Jen Wong. He's out there getting some of these monster gator pike himself with that jerkbait as well. Now, one more thing, I had Rudy Talamentes check in. He was out on the lower Susquehanna and he got himself into a really nice walleye. Great cold water fish as well on a 6-inch bomber stick bait. So great work there as well, Rudy. Guys, I hope you're out getting some of these fish. Great fishing now, but this bite is only going to last so long and it's going to turn off probably in December for a little bit of a lull and we'll pick things back up with some ice fishing. Go out and get on them. From Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
From the Pocono Mountains, the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, let's check in with Captain Ben. Jackpot Sport Fishing out of Marina Pez Vela in Capos.
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Ben Gilmore with the captain of Muy Caliente, Jorge, down here in Costa Rica at the Marina Pez Vela. So guys, we got this week's fishing report. What's happening out there, Jorge, right now?
It's hot right there. We got some sailfish bite, blue marlins, mahi, tuna, so fishing been good so far.
Guys, one of the boats yesterday raised 5 marlin, just insane stuff, mainly blue marlin out there right now. There's a couple of stripies as well. Yesterday, my boat Good Day raised 8 sailfish. How many did you raise, Jorge?
We raised 10 sailfish and a blue marlin and some tunas and mahis too yesterday. So
very nice, and we got a 60-inch bull dorado yesterday. Inshore's picking up, guys. We got a few snook. We got some rooster fish. The fishing's hot down here in Costa Rica. Come and check us out. This is Ben Gilmore aboard Good Day and Captain Jorge aboard Muy Caliente. See ya, guys.
What's he building in there? What is that? What the heck is being built at Island Beach State Park? I keep hearing about the sewer work, so is that really what that structure is? I posed this question last week to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. I still have not heard answers to confirm what the heck is going on at Island Beach State Park. So I contacted my Legislative District 10 office this week, expressed my frustration with getting any official answers from the DEP press office and from DEP Commissioner Sean LaTourette. I'm not sure about the contracted work by Ginkoli Power, or Michael's Construction, or the survey work just off the beach. But the District 10 office here in the Garden State got back in touch with me. Staffer I spoke to contacted Harms Construction, that's the other contractor out there at Island Beach State Park. They said that they are almost done with the new sanitary sewer lines in the northbound lane. They still have to build a few pump stations and parking lots. And again, I'm not sure if that structure we were looking at is a pump station or something else. Now, according to the legislative staffer I spoke to, apparently the wind folks are demobilizing. They had a barge offshore and they were going to do their horizontal drilling work through Island Beach State Park. But according to the District 10 office, they seem to think that they're pulling out and heading home. We shall see. Still waiting for some more information to come in as well. Our December edition of the Fisherman magazine is out next week. I have a little love note in there to DEP Commissioner Tyrant. Also, I'll be sending that along with a letter to the ACLU of New Jersey, because sometime over the weekend, Commissioner Tyrant, he deleted one of my comments from his social media. That is a violation of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, you petty little tyrant. Finally this week, a message to my wife in advance of the Eagles-Chiefs game coming up on Monday night. Patrick Mahomes, quarterback of the Chiefs, this week admitted that he wears the same underwear for every game, and he has since he entered the league. My wife keeps telling me I need to take this stuff off and wash it. I told her, it's bad luck. I'll take it off sometime when the striper blitzes are done. Heck, if it's good enough for Patrick Mahomes, it's good enough for me. Yeah, it's good enough for me. Hey, listen, we're going to be coming to you a little bit earlier next week. Instead of a Thursday video, we're going to give you a Wednesday video. Thanksgiving weekend is coming up. The Thanksgiving Massacre. Where's it going to happen this year? It typically does. Let's keep our fingers crossed for good weather, and it should be a terrific week. So look for this report next Wednesday, and I'm either going to cast here or I'm going to chase these fish down the beach. I'm not sure. Hope to see you up here this weekend. Could be a good one. Let's hope.